Hi, I'm Child of Bones and I want to speak to you. I'm going to do a few tutorials on one of my favourite goddesses called Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is a Russian goddess. I've done a video earlier about her powerful tidal stream, which is really effective for soul retrieval, power loss and for sex magic. It's mainly sex magic though that's done like Tantra for one, so it's about self-cultivation and working through your own sex and sexuality for yourself rather than about connecting in an intimate way with others. Anyway, so to start off, just a brief introduction on this massive stream of power and this massive goddess. I'd like to just say something that happened to me years ago when I had been working with Baba for a while, and I was situated in Buenos Aires in Argentina, as you do, and I was getting my hair done. And the lady was, I don't know, cutting it or washing it, I can't even remember. But basically she was a Russian hairdresser based in Argentina. And anyway, something came up about gods or something, and anyway, I mentioned Baba Yaga, and this hairdresser said to me, "Oh, poor Baba, she's, you know, sent to the forest and she's not allowed to come in and be in our community anymore." And she said that she had grown up with Baba Yaga being like the bad witch. If she didn't eat her vegetables, Baba was going to come and get her and eat her. And she said, you know, that all the pantomimes for children around Christmas in Russia are still having Baba Yaga as the bad person in there that might get the children, and she's used as a threat for little children, you know, in getting them to behave. And this Russian hairdresser was so sweet because she didn't work magic, she wasn't a magical practitioner, but she said, poor Baba, sent out there all alone by herself, and which I thought was really interesting. And she said, Baba's never hurt the children, never. It's all a lie that our parents tell us. And it really stayed with me, the level of emotion that this woman expressed for Baba Yaga. And certainly working with this god form, especially initially, I felt a profound sense of injustice that had been done to this goddess, that she had been, you know, turned into this deranged, psychotic, old hag that was banished and sent to the wild places. And then as I kind of unpicked her story by getting to know her and spending a lot of time self-healing in her energy, in her stream, in her might, I guess I learned I learned quite a lot actually, how small-minded I'd been in thinking that somehow this goddess had turned feral because of her the projections of humanity onto her. And I think that there's something to be said actually for when gods turn feral, and I'm a big believer that, you know, when archetypal energy that makes up the entire universe, when that's denied or shunned in communities of people, that it can come out in dark places, meaning in human psyche, which isn't a cause of the god. It's not accepting aspects of the self that are naturally occurring. And so when gods turn feral, they can become in the distance even more what appears to human consciousness when it's not been invited as a day-to-day reality. It can become even more obscure and more distant and more fearful. And Baba, you know, Baba's not got a problem with that. You know, it was like when I worked with this god and she basically restored aspects of my life, I was caught up in the human emotion that this god had been treated unfairly, and it was unfair that, you know, that Russian people still have pantomimes to tell their children that Baba's you know, this wicked witch in the woods. And of course, you know, that's just very human, isn't it? And that's also like, in a way, it's also a witch that loves a god, but, you know, it's quite small-minded. And you know, Baba's doing okay, really. Baba is doing okay. And there's some tips, and and advice that I'd like to give about how you call back a God that seems to be kind of like distance from us, you know, not the most readily available, if you like, due to the fact that she's kind of been misaligned and removed to the, you know, far off places. There is some tips to tell, but that doesn't mean that she's not available and she's not helpful and that she won't come. It just means that there's some ways of treating some archetypal energy different to other types that may be more accessible. So one of the main kind of very broad aspects of Baba Yaga that certainly I think that she upholds, if you like, in an archetypal fashion very, very well, is that about the disassociated parts of our own human psyche, about needing for, or when there's a need for power to be reclaimed, when it's been stripped, when there's been power loss, soul loss, usually within the parameters of being in the community this has happened. So this may not have been you know, something that necessarily was born into the person, where sometimes, you know, people say that, you know, that they've brought something in, and that's fine, and I suppose I shouldn't mock that, but what I mean is the energy that seems to be really strong with Baba Healing is the energy about you and the infrastructure of the community, where in being in the community, power was stripped, or there's been situations like abuse or exploitation. So the disassociated parts of the self, Baba is perfect. Perfect energy. She's strong, she's visceral when she comes, and she's so about sex and sexuality and reclaiming the self. So she's like masterful at this. She's existing, she's okay, she's, you know, completely turned on and, you know, big and mighty in upholding these truths. She's living the dream, she's doing it. She doesn't need the community, she's untouched by the community, she doesn't need the acceptance of the community to be upholding that. So she, when summoned, when she comes, when you invite her into your life, she's the perfect teacher on how to actually reclaim the self. And Baba's power is immense. It is immense. And I guess the little, it's not little, the profound teaching is when it turns on its head. And that is that, you know, certainly as I explained at the start of this little clip, that I had a genuine sadness that I thought that this God was being mistreated. And then, of course, as it all turns on its head through my own journey of healing with Baba Yaga, was that actually in the end Baba tells me that, you know, my offerings of flowers and feeding and her love of drinking rum and her availability of helping me restore myself, that really it was kind of nice that I saw her, that I was trying to bring her back in the community in a really respectful way. But like then Baba said to me, actually I've been visiting you in prison. Because it's like, she's doing okay, but she's like come to help me get out of my, you know, my own prison. So I thought that was hilarious. So that's the small introduction of Baba Yaga, and I'm going to shoot some more clips, and what we're going to do is actually go into some deeper workings about how, but more in depth on how we connect with Baba's energy, and some tips on how to call her, and how to work with her powerful, beautiful, vibrant stream. Okay.